Hello, and welcome along to the latest Forza Italian football podcast, the only Italian football podcast bringing you inside the Serie A stadiums every single week. I couldn't tell you how many games we were at this week, but there were quite a few important ones as well. I'm Conor Clancy, as always. Joining me here to talk about this week's Serie A action is Kev Pogorzelski. Kev, hello.
Hi Connor, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm very, very happy this evening. How are you?
I'm probably not as happy as you, but I'm very well. Cheers.
I think you might be, your team have a chance of winning your league, so
Yes, oh yes, of course. Yeah, I forget. I'm trying to block it out.
our
Trying to
happiness
block out the
levels.
nerves.
Yeah, whatever it takes, Kev, whatever it takes. Also joining us to speak about Serie A is Vito Doria. Vito, hello.
Hi, Connor. I'm probably not going to be as joyful as you this week, but I'm sure once again we'll have another amusing and intriguing podcast coming up.
I certainly hope so. I think it will be, if not amusing, it will certainly be enjoyable for me because we're going to have to start there, guys. The biggest match of the weekend was arguably played in Rome at the Stadio Olimpico, where, incidentally, we did have Alistair McKenzie. So, for those of you listening to the audio version of the podcast and not watching live on YouTube, you will hear me speak to Alistair right about now. But for those of you who are just watching us on YouTube, you'll have to download the audio for that, which you can get on Spotify, iTunes, Acast, wherever you get your podcasts. But anyway, guys, you two, let's talk about Atalanta Lazio, because Lazio went the goal up within 3 minutes through Marco Parolo, and as Atalanta have now done on 14 occasions this season, Kev, they came from behind to get some important points.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they've managed to get so many points, and I think the most in the league from losing positions, shows the spirit of the side. I think they were relatively unfortunate to fall behind to the Parolo goal. It was a little bit of just a scramble. The ball went up in the air and then suddenly landed on his foot. But yeah, the spirit that Gasperini has got, those players sort of playing with, he's got to be in with a shout for coach of the season, really.
I
And
don't
you just think that even playing the last two home games away from home, they're gonna secure this Champions League spot.
Hey, calm yourself. It's a little bit early to say that they're going to do it, but I don't think anybody else could even be considered for Coach of the Year. I know Allegri has won the league, but was he ever not going to win the league? Ancelotti has kept Napoli second, but Gasperini has the 14th biggest wage budget in Serie A, and they're a point from third place. It's ridiculous. Vito, do you think Gasp is the number one contender for the Coach of the season?
To me, I reckon Gasperini should win it. If Allegri wins it, I think it's a bit farcical, even though Juve have won the league so comprehensively. To me, Juve's achievements have been because the squad is so good, not so much that Allegri's been that great in the coaching or he's provided anything particularly outstanding. Gasperini, on the other hand, has really elevated the quality of the Atalanta squad, really given them a style of play, and to be close to third spot and possibly cementing a Champions League position, that is an incredible achievement. It's very hard for any provincial side in Europe's top five leagues to get it, and Atalanta could potentially be one of them thanks to Gasp.
Kev, he joked in his press conference after the match, which you can read thanks to Alistair on the site, that going behind is a strategy of theirs. Obviously, a little bit more than just tongue in cheek when he said that, but he did say it will eventually come back to haunt them. But what's Atalanta's trick? How do they keep coming from behind? How does Gasperini keep getting more than we think possible out of these players?
I think there's a slight truth to his tongue in cheek phrase about going behind. Some players just thrive off of that backs to the wall mentality, and I think that's their sort of unique selling point as a team is just that never say die attitude. It's because maybe they've not got a standout star there that you are going to consistently look to pass to. You could argue that Lazio did it in the past with Ciro Immobile. You know, all the balls went to him for a while, or there are other, if you like, almost larger names, and Atalanta don't really have that, even taking into account Gomez and Ilicic.
I think that's right, because Gomez and Ilicic are, I don't know what to call them, nominal luxury players, but they don't behave like luxury players. They've got all the ability of it, but they work. They work really, really hard in that team, especially Gomez, who is often seen at the edge of his own box, and it's remarkable. But it's hard to put your finger on exactly what he's doing, because everything just seems to be working so well for them, Vito.
Absolutely. And it's great to have such momentum at this stage of the season, where most of the other teams around them are probably patching their form. At the moment, Atalanta have a lot of things going in their favour. I do believe a lot of it is due to Gasparini's philosophy, but also just the players with the confidence they're in, and some players, they seem to be in the best form of their lives, especially someone like Duvan Zapata, who scored the equaliser against Lazio. He's got 22 goals for the season now. So I think when you have players who are playing to the best of their ability, there are goals that may seem unachievable at first, but they surprisingly end up being a reality. And I think with getting a win like this, especially in Rome, where usually the atmosphere can be hostile, I think it's great for Atalanta, and it's important to continue with this momentum in the last 3 games of the season, and also even for the Coppa Italia final. This was a good appetizer, and probably for your sake, you'd be hoping for a bit more of the same.
Absolutely. We've got a liar appear in the comments. Hamad has come in and said, I asked after week 4 if Atalanta, Sampdoria or Fiorentina could make the top 4, and I remember all of you said no. I know for a fact that's not true, Hamad, because I said as soon as Atalanta got knocked out of the Europa League that they would qualify for the Champions League, and I've stuck with that all season. So go back and listen to the podcast and you'll prove yourself to be incorrect. But anyway, Kev, they are now, in your own words, in control of their own destiny. They've got Genoa at home, but away it's in Reggio Emilia, Juventus away, and Sassuolo in Reggio Emilia to play. And they just need to do what you would expect them to do, and they get Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said last week that I mapped out my potential points for the teams that were vying for that Champions League spot, and even taking into account that they have Juve away, not this week coming, but the following week. I don't think I gave many points for that, but even so, they were 4 ahead of anybody else in my permutations, and I think even allowing for me to make some errors there, I just don't see them not doing it. And I was concerned about them playing away from Bergamo, and you probably also have to factor in the Coppa Italia. Is it the 15th of May?
Yes. So
that's squeezed in between some league fixtures. But I think they're going to be playing Champions League football next year.
Shut up.
Maybe at Anfield.
Maybe at Anfield. Maybe at Anfield. My dad's a Chelsea fan, so he was messing with me today to say that they might be playing them. He might be making a trip to Reggio Emilia next season, which isn't something I'd recommend anyone do, but oh well. They were welcomed back at the airport, as they always are when they win a big game, by 4,000 crazy fans with flares, fireworks, songs, and everything. And Vito, I've seen a bit of a reaction online to say that this is a bit premature, but does that just not understand that Atalanta do this all the time?
Yeah, they do it quite a lot. So, I've noticed that in the last 2 to 3 years, especially in the Gasparini era, that with all this latest overachievement, that their fans have been really proud of their team. they're happy to see them be more than just a team that survives relegation or finish mid-table. And they haven't been this good since probably the early 90s. So to really be pushing for Europe, I think they're just taking everything as it comes. And these things, they're big reasons for celebration. You can't expect them to be like the big clubs who only celebrate when it's, a victory of a trophy. Sometimes you got to look at clubs and say, certain things are big enough achievements as it is. So, if they find a reason to celebrate, why not?
You could probably argue
that show of support from the Atalanta fans is what makes me think that they'll have no trouble moving away from Bergamo for those last two games.
Well, we saw it when they were in the Europa League and they had to play their group stage games in Reggio. The whole city went. Papu Gomez spoke after the qualification for the Coppa Italia final, and he said, we're going to take the whole of Bergamo to Rome. And there's near 200,000 people living in Bergamo. You wouldn't be surprised if each and every 200,000 of them made the trip with me to the capital for that game. And it's going to be something special wherever they go. And that extends to whatever European adventure they do have next season, should they clinch qualification in the Europa League or the Champions League. But since Christmas, they've only lost twice. And those games came in consecutive matches against Milan and Torino, and people were writing them off ridiculously, I remember saying at the time. But one of the reasons for their form, Vito, you touched on it, is Duvan Zapata. And he got another big goal today, and it wasn't a bad touch that set him up for it.
No, that was a well-worked goal. So, yeah, it's not like that Atalanta get scrappy goals or anything. A lot of the goals are good in the build-up and also in the execution. And once again, with Zapata, despite his tall and solid frame, this season he's just displayed greater mobility and also better touch on the ball than usual. So I think that's fantastic on his part, and also vital for Atalanta's aspirations that he is in such a fantastic form and also playing supposedly out of character.
Kev, Lazio then. We spoke to Alistair earlier about them, but I'll speak to you now. That 7 points off the Champions League, that's them done, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think we've seen the cracks starting to appear the last few weeks. The Milinkovic-Savic reaction that got himself sent off. And yeah, they've just dropped like a stone in recent weeks.
Yeah, it's a strange one. But anyway, Alistair will have spoken a little bit more about that. On to another positive story from this season's Serie A campaign. Sitting pretty in 6th place in the Europa League spots are Torino, and they went across the city to take on the old lady of Juventus on Friday evening, and they held them to a 1-1 draw. I say they held them. Torino were held to a 1-1 draw here, Kev.
Yeah, they were. I don't watch a great deal of Torino, but obviously every time the derby comes around, you watch it with interest. And I can't remember in recent memory them playing as well and on the front foot. And I sort of mentioned it to Dov during the game, and he sort of said that the Champions League incentive to actually turn Juve over. Obviously, there should always be some incentive to turn over your local rival, but he might have hit the nail on the head because they seem to be really, really positive and trying to attack Juve at home for once. I think we see it a little bit more when they're at the Olimpico.
Yeah, it was quite nice to see. But how much of that do you think played into Juve having ended their season already?
I think a little bit. I'm yet to see the attendance at the stadium that night, because it seemed to me that there were sort of patches of almost as if the fans have given up on the season as much as Juventus have, and I wonder if that also played a little bit into their hands. But I think certainly second half you saw that Juve, the players did not want to lose that game, whether that be the fans in the stadium voicing their unhappiness, because certainly many of them, when the camera was panning around on Friday night, were very unhappy as the players were trudging off at half time. So I don't think we can discredit Torino's efforts too much with Juve having the title wrapped up.
You're probably right. The Juventus Stadium, I always find the turnout there to be quite disappointing, considering they reduced the capacity to make it full all the time for this amazing atmosphere. But it's just it's never really the case, is it? I'm like you. I don't know the attendance figures, but it always does strike you when there are empty seats there because they stand out so much more than in other places. But Vito, Torino are another team who they've only lost 3 times since Christmas, and we sit here and praise them every single week, and we're doing it again. Could they qualify for the Champions League? Because they're 5 points behind Atalanta now, so it's a tall task for them. But even Europa League qualification for them will be an enormous victory for Mazzarri.
Absolutely. Since Gianpiero Ventura left the Torino job to coach the national team, you had Mihalovic there who wasn't able to get them out of mid-table, basically. And then Mazzarri, he took over last season, had some respectable results, but this is Mazzarri's first full season with the Granata, and I think he's finally getting his ideas across, and it's really benefiting the Granata in this instance. I do think that the Champions League is probably a bit of a stretch, but the way Inter are, they're not the most consistent team by any stretch of the imagination, and I wouldn't pass Inter to slip it up more than Torino sort of getting there. I reckon Torino getting the Champions League would be phenomenal, but it also helps when you have teams around them that aren't producing enough consistency in the results.
Can you just imagine if Serie A's representatives in the Champions League next season, given how much the other sides have invested, were Juventus, Napoli, Atalanta, and Torino? It would be chaotic. But Torino would draw all of their 6 group games 0-0 and sneak themselves through somehow. You just know it. But I don't know, Kev. Back to reality, it had to be Cristiano Ronaldo that burst their bubble a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, and probably because when we're talking about the Juventus players sort of slowing down because they've wrapped the title up, he's the type of individual that won't allow that to happen for his own personal pride, and hung very well in the air for the header, and right place, right time again.
Yeah, well, this is what he does. I'm just looking at the table now, and it's testament to how well organised Mazzarri has this Torino team that they've only scored 1 goal more than Empoli this season, and Torino are 6th. Empoli are possibly going to get relegated, which it shows organisation can get you quite a long way in football. Right, we won't get to speak about Milan's result, obviously, because they play on Monday evening. We're recording this on Monday morning or Sunday night, whatever way you want to look at it. But they're away to Bologna. Kev, they could slip. Or no, they're at home to Bologna, rather, but they could slip.
I still think they'll slip. You know, Bologna are the informed side in Serie A. Milan don't really know where they're going at the moment. Question marks around selection, question marks around Gattuso's future. And I just think Bologna will ride their wave to get themselves to the 40-point mark. I'm pretty sure they're on 37. At the very least, I expect them to draw.
Well, Bologna are one of Serie A's 14 teams. The other are sitting pretty in 4th. But yeah, I take your point. We won't spend too long speaking about that anyway. But next on the list, we've got, again, the Dove Schiavone was at for us. It was Genoa, Roma, where Roma drew. They scored late. It looked like they had won it. Then they conceded late and then gave away an even later penalty. Vito, Roma were lucky to escape with a point.
They were, and mostly it was because of the rather tame effort Antonio Sanabria had from the penalty spot. He was the one that earned the penalty, but he was the one that stood up, and he just struck the ball tamely at Mirante, and it was a really poor penalty, to be honest. I mean, very amateurish to just struck it so weakly.
Yeah, it was awful. The only time I can forgive penalties being hit so softly are when they take the you know, the Diego Perotti approach or Eden Hazard, where they walk up to the ball, send the keeper down, and then just trickle it in. But this was just dreadful. Kev, I feel like this is the type of penalty that will get you annoyed.
Well, yeah, it was woeful. To be perfectly honest, I was probably more annoyed at the Roma defending on the Genoa equaliser, because Romero outjumped about 4 Roma defenders.
Where was Antonio Morante for that? Because I'm still looking for him. He was.
Well,
No.
yeah, he can share some of the blame, but one Genoa player shouldn't be out jumping 4 Roma defenders or players. I think they all expected the other to go up for the header. It's just astounding.
Before we speak about Genoa, before we speak about Roma, rather, Genoa are 4 points above the drop. They do have the Udinese cushion separating them and Empoli, but is it too late for them to get dragged into things now, Vito?
It's never too late. With all seriousness, though, there are 3 rounds left, and mathematically there is a possibility. So Empoli, they did manage to get the win against Fiorentina, and they have Samp next, and the Blue Cerchiati haven't been in great form. So yeah, it's interesting to see. Really, it's more a case of if Empoli can sort of keep scoring goals, but also tighten things up at the back, because that's been Empoli's major problem this season, that they just have such a leaky defense. Otherwise, their football's usually been fantastic. If they were able to get more results, then I'm sure Udinese and Genoa would have been dragged into this a lot earlier, because Udinese have been poor, and in the second half of the season, Genoa have been absolutely terrible, especially since they sold Piontek.
Yeah, well, they were basically a one-man team or a two-man team with him and Kwame tearing it up for most of the season. But yeah, it says a lot about, again, it's not quite as bad as it was last season, but the quality down the bottom of Serie A is not very good, unfortunately. Thankfully, there is a bit more than there was last year, because last year, and I think the year before, was an absolute disgrace. It was the year Empoli got relegated, and they scored about 14 goals or something ridiculous before April. I can't remember, but yeah, a little bit better than that. Kev, Roma, they've been doing their job quite quietly and subtly, but still not convincing. And today they were made to pay. Ranieri's not going to be there after this season, and both Antonio Conte and now Jose Mourinho have been linked with the soon-to-be vacant Roma bench.
Yeah, I saw reports that Mourinho had been offered a 3-year contract to move to the capital. I can't see that happening. Jose historically has been a man that's gone to clubs that are willing to lavish millions and millions of pounds on him to strengthen the side, and even if Roma need that, I'd probably argue they do in certain areas. I don't see him giving those sort of funds. And then with Spalletti's future Inter open to question, I don't see why either he or Conte would choose Roma over Inter if they've got Champions League football next year.
I'd agree with that. I can't see Mourinho or maybe Conte, but definitely not Mourinho going somewhere where you can't win the league. Roma is definitely somewhere where you cannot win the league. Inter, I know they're 26 points behind Juventus now, but they've a lot more opportunities to end Juventus' stranglehold on the Scudetto than Roma do, you would imagine. But can we stop talking about Roma? Where we go now? Oh, our favourite subject, Inter. Udinese 0, Inter 0. This was fun, wasn't it, Vito?
Well, Juan Musso, the Udinese goalkeeper, probably saved Udinese from losing this particular game, because the Nerazzurri had quite a few chances to win, whereas Udinese, the best chance they probably had was from Mandragora in the first half. So, yeah, you could say that Inter were probably a bit unlucky not to win, but at the same time, neither side have been overly fantastic lately, so you'd reckon based on that, 0-0 was fair enough.
Ev, do you want to talk about this game, or do you want to talk about Marito Icardi.
Mr. Icardi. I'd rather talk about Icardi.
Let's do it then. Where shall we start? Should we start with the sexy posts again, or shall we go to the Ultras statement?
Oh, well, tell me the Ultras statement, because this is what I've missed.
Okay, well, the Ultras were obviously listening to the FIFpod last week because they hit out at their former captain in the form of a public statement where they basically said, nobody questions the technical and sporting ability of the number 9, but the problem is and will continue to be his mentality. It doesn't fit with the club's profile. It can't ever change. He's wasted various opportunities to reconcile with the dressing room and with the fans, which is testimony enough that for the common good of the club, a player with such superficial characteristics cannot be part of Inter's future. So that's what they had to say.
Okay, so firstly on that, I mentioned this previously, that you can't dig a player out so blatantly if you're looking to retain some form of resale value. Because I know obviously the fans don't necessarily have a direct link to that, but they must realise that whatever they get for Icardi, if they want him out that seriously, is going to effectively be the funds to provide a replacement.
It really just seems like they don't care at this point. They just want him gone at whatever cost.
I understand that sentiment, but at some stage, someone has to get some realism into them and make them realise that it's not particularly beneficial to the club for them to be effectively hounding this chap out of town.
It does seem though, Vito, as if it's. I know we've been here before with little Marito, but he can't be there beyond this summer, can he? I mean, it's just he can't stay.
No, he can't. Sometimes I've seen, at least on social media, that it's once again Wanda and Mauro, just the whole saga lately, not just with all the photos on Instagram, that they're just trying to bluff and trying to get a better deal from Inter. But this time I can't see it happening that way. I think it's more than just trying to get a deal from Inter. In this scenario, I think they are starting to burn so many bridges, within the Inter board, the fans, and possibly even the locker room as well. So to see Inter play with Icardi next season, I would be shocked, to be honest, because this sort of reaction here, you can't draw too much negative attention on the club. And the way things are going at Inter, they need a proper leader. They need a proper captain who's actually determined to win and not really be out there for his own interests. And he's got to be a leader on and off the pitch. This sort of stuff here, between all the fooling around on Instagram and so forth, you don't really want to see that from your captain or even former captain. So I reckon his future might be better away from Inter.
Yeah, for everyone's sake, it's time to just cut the cord there and move on. Let Icardi entertain some other country's podcast, but I'll miss him, to be honest. As irritating as it can be speaking about him all the time, he keeps things interesting. Kev, let's get to the pictures, because there's been more developments. Before you go into your little theory, last time we spoke about the latest picture was Wanda lying on him on a table. Then the roles reversed. Possibly the same table, that is to be confirmed. But Wanda put some clothes on and Icardi took all of his off. And what kind of position would you describe that as?
I don't know. I can't think about this without laughing now. I generally just keep going back to the one where Wanda's on her back because of a childhood memory of my own, which kind of got brought back to me earlier in the week.
Okay, and, you teased us in our personal chat. You said you have a story to tell us. So
yeah, so earlier in the week, all of us will know Sid Lowe, the journalist that focuses on Spanish football, and he put out a tweet of an anatomically incorrect picture of a pregnant lady at 30 odd weeks that looked like a small baby driving a woman. Anyway,
By the way, if you haven't seen it, go and check out Sid Lowe's tweet.
Definitely go and check it out. And it reminded me of when I was relatively small, because we don't talk in the Pogorzelski household, of a book that my mother gave myself and my 3 brothers of similarly poorly drawn people having sex positions and explaining the reproductive cycle. And every single image of the man penetrating the lady was based on them laying on a table. And I cannot now get Wanda and Marrow out of my head. But also for a very small proportion of my life, I thought that men and women only had sex on tables.
Why a table?
I have no idea. Clearly, it was the easiest thing for the illustrator to draw.
What kind of table?
Well, just like your standard kitchen worktop table. The man was always stood upright and the lady was on her back.
The man was always upright?
Yes. It almost to show the ease at which a penis could do its job.
So it's.
I hope that's PC enough for the pod at this late hour.
The height, as long as we don't swear, it's fine. The height of the table was quite convenient then in each of those scenarios.
Well, exactly. But I spent a good 18 months thinking that my mother and father were only having sex on tables.
What age was this?
I don't want to do my mother a disservice as to when she taught us about the birds and the bees, but I reckon I could have been as young as 8.
Where were you eating your dinner at this time?
Well, there's another story there, Connor, that I can't. It did bring up the fear that every time we sat down for our evening meals, had we ever left our parents alone?
Yeah. Oh well, Martin Carter says that he needs to dump Wanda and stay. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Wanda and Icardi are for life until it goes terribly, terribly wrong and he doesn't get a move because of something she said. Kev, are you finished talking about that?
I am finished talking about my my upbringing. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Everyone else, go to Instagram and follow @Mauro Icardi and you will be treated to a lovely series of Instagram posts, which are just an absolute joy. There's a couple of very curious positions, but make of them what you will. Are we done talking about Inter? Is that really is that really it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I'll probably just say I can see them dropping below Atalanta, but not below 4th.
Yeah,
I think they will secure Champions League.
I think Inter will be fine. There's not going to be any problems there. And if they do miss out on the Champions League, I fear for the San Siro if neither of those teams are in the Champions League next year. But oh well. Right, where are we going next? Let's you two come here and me not go anywhere. We'll talk about Parma Sampdoria because this was quite fun. I was quite pessimistic about this beforehand because both teams, or neither team rather, had anything to play for. Sampdoria have no chance of Europe, and Parma have very, very little chance of getting relegated. The biggest novelty about this game was the fact that both teams were wearing kits that honoured one another. The Ultras were celebrating 30 years of official gemellaggio or twinning or friendship, however you want to call it. And I was treated on the pitch. It finished 3-3. Both teams had players sent off. Both teams led at different points. And it was quite fun. But, Kev, you're not happy?
It wasn't that I was unhappy. I get bored of the tedium of these half and half scarves and these novelty football kits. And what annoys me more than anything else. Sorry, Connor.
No. Go.
What annoys me more than anything else is a club not wearing its home shirt at home.
But can you not?
I know this was for charity. I kind of accept that, but it's just, I suppose I grew up in the era when all these third kits and European shirts and Champions League shirts came out, and they absolutely fleeced the generation of football fans, and it was for nothing more than profit. making. And now I think that that's been seen to be what it is. That there's now there's a 115-year anniversary kit that somebody will wear, and I don't know. I just get tired of the marketing and the.
Generally, I agree, but this is for charity, and it was something that I've never seen before, for two teams to acknowledge a relationship with one another and to incorporate the opposition's kit into their own while still wearing their own colours. I thought it was quite nice. The only confusing thing was that Parma's home kit was predominantly blue, which threw me a little bit. But it was beautiful. I bought the Parma shirt. I just think it's fantastic. It's a nice.
And did they do a limited number?
Yeah, I didn't say how many there were, but the thing about it was all of the shirts sold in Parma, the money raised from that will go to a charity in Genoa, and all of the shirts sold in Genova, the money from that will go to a charity here in Parma, which I thought was quite a really nice touch. For the club to acknowledge that the fans have this friendship and to come up with such a creative and imaginative way of honouring it, I thought was really quite nice.
In a way, I don't understand the friendship. It goes back to I've got a friend here who's from Peterborough, lives in Portsmouth, so he says he follows both clubs, but he also likes Wolves because I don't know, a childhood friend grew up and played for Wolves. It's this whole they are your direct rivals at some stage, whether they go up or down leagues or you play them in the cup. Another side in your own country is going to be a direct rival, and this whole fan friendship, I don't know. It just doesn't. It's never sat right with me.
But the players still went at it, as you saw, with 2 sendings off and 6 goals. The players didn't take anything from the fact that these are our mates. We're not going to go for them.
I'm sure they do because all the marketing bluff probably largely goes over their head. But yeah, I don't know. It's commendable because of the charitable aspect, but I just don't think I'll ever get over it.
No, I don't think you ever will, mate. You're so negative. It's ridiculous. All day just hit you hard. But Vito, let's make Kev even more miserable because his favourite player, Fabio Quagliarella, was at it again. He scored twice.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And now he's got 25 goals for the season, and he's well beaten Vincenzo Montella's tally of 22 for the 96-97 season. And now he's 2 goals away from equaling Sergio Briganti's tally from the 1960-61 season. So at 36, better than a fine wine, and he's still going. And it was just a shame we couldn't secure the 3 points because for most of the game, we were playing some excellent football, even on a wet pitch.
Oh, the pitch was crazy. It was causing absolute chaos, which I had a lot of fun with because it just meant that there was always going to be goals, basically, and usually red cards, though the red cards did come from things that didn't really have anything to do with the pitch. But one of the big reasons Sampdoria didn't get all 3 points, Kev, was because of Omar Colley. He wasn't very good.
No, we spoke about it last week. I thought he was awful against Bologna. And he made, obviously, a rash challenge for the penalty this week and then got himself sent off. Probably a little bit of time out of the team will do him some good because, as Vito mentioned last week, I think it was, that he's still quite young. But, yeah, he makes some strange decisions quite a lot of the time at the moment.
Yeah, that seems to be his major flaw. The penalty incident was really bad. He just fell asleep. And Siligadi had only come on the pitch. He basically ran from the halfway line to get kicked. And that was his first impact. He must have been on less than 10 seconds by the time it happened. Dennis Pratt, I want to talk about him. Vito, you've got an absolute gem in him. He's elegant. Every time he has the ball, things just slow down. And he seems to have more time than anyone else when he's in possession.
He has been fantastic for us this season, and he's just grown with confidence. His knees on the ball very tidy. He even helped to track back a few times because Bartosz Berezinski had a poor game against Gervinho, especially when it came to defending. So Pratt dropped back a few times to help him out. And I even thought Pratt could have scored twice in this game too. So yeah, I really like the way he plays. He's just got fantastic skills on the ball, And yeah, just if he added some finishing touch too, I think he's such a fantastic player for us. And unfortunately, I think he'll probably be another one of those players that will be snapped up by someone else for a good amount of money.
It seems to be the way things go at Sampdoria, unfortunately. But I was distracted by a comment from regular listener and commenter Locke. Yes, Kev, it's aimed at you. What is this Freudian segment? He wants to know. Have you any explanation?
Sorry?
What is this Freudian segment? He's referring to you and your childhood tales. Have you any explanation for it, or is it just exactly what it was?
Yeah, no, I think it's exactly what it was. It just it was the combination of the tweet from Sid Lowe and then Wanda and Maro's pictures that just brought that horrible childhood memory back to me.
All right, take it. Rewind. Let's go back. Parma. Alessandro Bastoni got a big goal, but it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the big man. Big Bruno Alves popping up on the left wing. Did you see the technique on that cross, Kev? It was fantastic.
Yes, your love affair with Bruno can continue for another week.
It was great because he got the ball, and I honestly found myself thinking, oh, he's the perfect man because he'll just whip in an amazing cross. But then I thought, oh no, but no one's good enough to score if he's not in there. But then he did that, and I can't remember who got the header, but he missed. And then Bastoni, his little pal from the back, was there to tap it in. And what I liked about this was Roberto De Versa charged down the touchline. What was a pretty pointless goal, really, but De Versa was loving it. There's a great photo of him, Bastoni, and Big Bruno celebrating in the corner, and it's fantastic. But Bruno Alves, by the way, is our winner for goal of the month for Serie A in April. So my love affair can continue with him for at least another month, Kev. You'll be happy to know. And then when Atalanta sign him for the Champions League run next season, I'll be getting him on the back of my shirt and getting his name tattooed on me somewhere. And I'll have a lovely little time. But I think that's it from Parma, Sampdoria. Anything else to say about either of these? No? Fine?
No.
I thought this was going to be...
Caprari should have scored twice as well.
He should have. He should have killed the game, actually, with that low drag. Vito, go on. You can vent.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been typical of me to pick scapegoats. And, yeah, as we touched upon, Colli, shocking. I reckon he was a disaster waiting to happen, to be honest. And Marco Giampaolo should have picked up on that. But no, he kept persisting with Colli. Look, I might show my Sampdoria biases here, but I really think it was a case of not so much Parma creating a great comeback, but more that Sampdoria lost it. And Colli was that person, unfortunately. And I also feel that with Joachim Andersen being absent, I think that leaves a bigger hole in our defence than I had anticipated. And it's just a shame that Colli's been playing so terribly. It's like no awareness, no sense of discipline. And it's sad because I thought in the first half of the season or first 3 quarters, he actually was looking good. But some of these errors, they're more atrocious than anything Edgar Barreto can come up with.
Oh, poor Edgar. You brought him back up. I thought he was out of the firing line for
Mind you, for one of those chances Caprari could have scored, Barreto did play a beautiful long pass. I'll give him that. And that would have been... And if Caprari scored that, could have been Barreto with the winning assist and probably one of the most sumptuous passes you could see this season too.
Good. Some positivity for the Paraguayan, I think.
Yes, Paraguayan. Played at the 2010 World Cup.
Wow. That's a thought, isn't it? Edgar Barreto at a World Cup. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Spal, guys, they're knocking on the door of the top 10 now. They're officially safe. They beat Kiev 4-0, and their impressive run lately has just kept going. Kev, they should be looking to kind of cement themselves as one of those mid-table sides in Serie A next season.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but do you think they will?
I think they should. I think this season that was the aim, because they brought in Atalanta, basically, with Krutic, Drame, Paloschi, Petagna, Grassi was there for a bit. Who else is there? I
They
don't know.
signed very well when they were first promoted.
Yeah, but then even last summer too, they took all of the Atalanta boys who got them to the Europa League, and it started well for a few weeks. Then it went terribly, and now it's going well again. If they could just middle out somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's an element of the strength of the sides that come up next season will sometimes give a club like that a buffer to, save themselves for another year and sort of continue that gradual progression rather than try and go all out to cement that Serie A status.
Yeah, this is it. If you look at the teams that are coming up, it's going to be Brescia are confirmed as back in Serie A, and it could well be Lecce or Palermo joining them, and then one of the playoff winners. So you'd fancy Spal to stay higher than all of the three promoted sides. And if you look at the teams that are below them now, Parma, Cagliari, Genoa and Udinese, if they all stay up, Spal should fancy themselves to finish above them again. And then there's kind of that middle bit where anything can really happen with like Fiorentina, Torino, Sassuolo. You don't really know what's going to happen with those teams. So yeah, Spal. I like it. It's good. It's somewhere else for me to go. And it's always a nice place to watch football. But yeah, good on you, Spal. Hopefully they can continue that for next season. What's left? I've lost my thing. Oh, Napoli beat Cagliari 2-1, and this was a bit controversial because of a penalty that was given, Vito. What did you think of this?
I thought the infringement was outside, and it's hard to tell from the replays, but at least based on the one so I've seen, the handball was probably just inside the penalty area, but they're not the easiest calls to make too. So I reckon that would have been a call that could have gone 50-50 anyway.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people were kicking off about this, but Kev, I'm finding it hard to care because the match literally could not really matter any less. Cagliari won't get relegated. Napoli are second. Who cares? It's fine.
Yeah, the outrage outweighed the significance of the match by quite an astonishing level, really, because I've not read the report, but I saw something surface on Twitter about the sporting director going crazy after the game about the injustice of the penalty. Ancelotti, I think, largely just brushed it aside. He gave it the airtime that it was probably due to get by just saying, he thought it was a penalty, and but you say everybody's safe and happy. I think it might have moved Cagliari into 10th. I think that's where they were when I saw that they were winning. But
yeah, but what difference is that?
Largely inconsequential.
Yeah, I suppose a little bit more prize money, but it's not going to be that much of a difference. I think that's us. Serie B. Lecce play Spezia next week, and if they win, they get promoted. Whereas Palermo play Cittadella at home. They'll have to basically better Lecce's result on points. But I quite like both of those teams. I'd like Lecce to come up and Palermo to come up through the playoffs, just because I know a Lecce fan. So I'm kind of backing them for their promotion push. But I do also want Benevento to come up, so I don't know what to do. But what can you do? It's a difficult situation. Anyway, Vito, thank you.
Welcome. Just before we go, though, Hellas Verona, that's a pretty funny scenario. They sacked Fabio Grosso and they hired Federico Alietti, and they still lost 3-0 to Cittadella. So it looks like they'll miss out on the playoffs. And yeah, I don't know what Verona were thinking by sacking Grosso.
No, I'd agree with that. And Kev, thank you. You've reminded me that we missed kind of an important result before dipping into Serie B. Because Empoli got a win. They're not dead yet.
Derby.
Yeah, they beat Fiorentina in the derby that no one cares about. And they're still alive. Can they do it?
I fear for Udinese and possibly Genoa, actually. I know that. Yeah, I can see Vito cheering in my on my screen. I think I've been sort of lulled into a false sense of security because a lot of the other European leagues are finishing either next week. You kind of forget that Serie A have still got 3 rounds of fixtures to go. Kev,
Udinese play Frosinone next week.
Yeah, but then look at Frosinone. Even they put up a fight against Sassuolo. Maybe there's that old cliche that when the side is actually down and they go and get a win, like Chievo did against Lazio.
Mm.
And I just think with 3 rounds left to go, if Empoli can do like they've done this week and keep it tight and grab a goal, then who knows? It would at least make our lives a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, true. I don't particularly have fond feelings for Empoli or negative feelings, but I would quite like to see Udinese get relegated, just so I could send a couple of messages to a certain someone. But yeah, whatever happens there, let's hope that it's not decided before the last week of the season and Udinese have a little bit of struggle and they have to sweat a little bit, because that would be fun for personal reasons. But Vito, Empoli still the team to go down?
Look, at this stage, they don't have an easy draw coming up, so I don't really fancy their chances, but I really hope they prove me wrong, because they are a delightful team to watch. Whereas Udinese, I think they need to seriously rebuild, because the Pozzo family have different priorities. And then Genoa, the circus of all circuses. As much as I love the derby, Genoa have to know their place.
Kev, your facial reaction, what did that mean?
I think we should have just left the pod on circus of all circuses.
Yeah, well, that'll be the outro, for sure. We might play the Genoa music.
I like being a neutral on this pod.
Yeah, you don't have a team, actually, do you?
No, when I first started following Serie, not back in the 80s, not quite. Wow, I suppose late 80s. It was, I suppose I sort of had favourite players, but never really affiliated myself with one particular club. Although I would say that Genoa were the first side I saw, because they played Liverpool in the '92 UEFA Cup. So that's my first real, where I sort of fell in love with that Branco free kick, even though they defeated us.
This is terrible. How could you wait
if
all
I had to
season
choose one,
to
that's
reveal
probably
that?
one I should go for, but
but they stole your song. You'll Never Walk Alone.
I know. And actually, I also saw Sampdoria in the '92 European Cup final, which was on my birthday. The first real one that I remember, because it was at Wembley.
What age were you?
11.
What age were you really?
No, 11. 81 birth. Thank you.
So you were 12 when I was born.
Thank you.
I thought you were older, to be honest. That's
how very dare you? I think my internet's going.
Whenever you're like, Vito, this time I mean it. Goodbye.
Bye, Connor.
Thank you, as ever. Kev, anything else to say on Mauro Icardi, Wandanara, anything?
No, I don't need that before going to bed. Any more dreams of my childhood?
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, thanks for listening and putting up with us this week. We will be back again next week, probably Sunday night. I hope Sunday night. I don't know what games there are, but next week's big. Atalanta Genoa in Reggio Emilia, and then Fiorentina Milan for me. So that'll be fun. Anyway, we will speak to you then. In the meanwhile, head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com for all of our Serie A news, features, videos, match coverage from inside the stadiums. No one else does that. And I think that's everything, I think that's everything. But until next time, I have nothing else to say other than ciao for now.